The history of Captain America. Steve Rogers' Captain America predates Marvel Comics, originally published in 1940 by their corporate predecessor Timely Comics, designed to take advantage of the growing popularity of superhero comics and serve as anti-Nazi propaganda. The cover of the first issue of Captain America saw Captain America punch Hitler in the face. Draped in the American flag, carrying an indestructible shield made of some mix of adamantium and vibranium, depending on the point in comic history, injected with a super soldier serum to make Steve the peak of human physical fitness and endurance, Captain America seemed undefeatable. But alas, superhero comics declined in popularity following the end of the war, and Captain America comics were discontinued in 1950. After a short-lived attempted revival teaming him up with Jim Hammond, the original Human Torch with zero creative ties, to the Fantastic Four, Steve Rogers and Captain America were retired until 1963. An imposter Captain America was revealed to appear in Strange Tales issue 114, defeated by the Fantastic Four's Human Torch as a test to gauge interest in the potential return of the real Captain America. Positive responses from readers saw the character reintroduced in 1964's The Avengers issue 4, retroactively establishing the Hull frozen in the Atlantic Ocean in the final days of World War II and left in suspended animation for decades story arc. While a solo Captain America book recommenced, Marvel Comics took a position of neutrality on the Vietnam War, and thus Captain America was kept away from the issue in the comics. Captain America stories in the 1970s increasingly focused on domestic American political issues such as poverty, racism, pollution, and political corruption, significantly shaped by writer Steve Englehart and artist Sal Buscema. For time will skirt through decades of comic history, but Captain America has a number of sidekicks during that time. Some of the most memorable will be talked about in the Captain America Sam Wilson Comic Club in March, and has a number of recurring villains established, some of which we'll also talk about during that comic club, and is briefly involved in many team rosters for the Avengers in addition to his solo title. He also goes through a brief period of the American government forcing him to give his shield and title to the patriotic villain John Walker, who was created to better define what Captain America the concept is by seeing someone groping, trying to live up to the concept of Captain America, trying to grasp all the facets of the concept and ultimately failing. During that time, Steve Rogers wore a simplified black, red, and white version of the Captain America suit and shield, going by the codename The Captain, before being returned to the Captain America mantle by a US committee, and John Walker, stripped of the Captain America title, took Steve's old hand-me-down black, red, and white The Captain suit and became US Agent instead. There was a brief period in 2007 when Steve was incorrectly presumed dead, that Bucky stole his shield and costume and took on the mantle to keep Steve's shield falling into the hands of some government stooge that would sully the reputation Steve built, like Johnny Walker nearly had. Steve ultimately turned up alive and took up the Captain America mantle again. Years later, Steve Rogers was stripped of his super soldier serum and quickly accelerated to look and feel his natural age, which, considering he was already an adult when World War I started, makes Steve quite old. Weakened by age rather than die wielding the shield, Steve chose one of his closest and most trusted allies to take up his shield. Now, Sam Wilson, formerly the Avenger known as the Falcon, carries on the fight for liberty and justice as the all-new, all-different Captain America, and this time without any super soldier serum to assist him. The history of Sam Wilson. As Captain America's 1970s comics focused on domestic political issues, Captain America issue 117 introduced Samuel Thomas Wilson, aka the Falcon, as the first African-American superhero in mainstream comic books, and who would become Captain America's partner. The series title on the cover was changed to Captain America and the Falcon beginning February 1971, and continued under this name for the next 7.5 years. Black Panther still holds the honorific of being Marvel's first black superhero. Luke Cage, aka Power Man, would be introduced in 1972, Blade in 1973, and Aurora Munro, aka Storm, in 1975, and black non-superhero characters had appeared in supporting capacities in other comics like Joe and Randy Robertson in the Amazing Spider-Man comics, and Gabe Jones from the American military group The Howling Commandos. Bill Foster, as played in the MCU by Lawrence Fishburne, was introduced in 1966 as Hank Pym's lab assistant, but doesn't become the superhero Black Goliath, later retconned in 2006 to Goliath, until 1975. Sam Wilson was introduced as a former resident of New York City's Harlem neighborhood, who had adopted a wild falcon he trained and named Red Wing. When a group of men on an island in the tropics wanted a hunting falcon, Sam answered the ad. When Sam discovered the self-dubbed exiles were former Nazis in league with the supervillain the Red Skull, Sam escaped but remained on the island to organize the natives to confront the exiles who had turned them into servants. At the urging of Steve Rogers, whom he later learned was Captain America, Wilson took on the costumed identity of the Falcon and underwent training with Rogers to better inspire the villagers and lead the fight. The original Falcon costume was primarily green with golden orange fringes and did not have any wings. In Captain America issue 170, at Steve Rogers' request, the T'Challa Black Panther designed the iconic set of wings Sam Wilson uses. These wings featured detachable, jet-powered glider wings made of lightweight titanium ribbing and mylar. The wings were covered with wafer-thin, solar-powered receptors that convert sunlight into electricity for power, miniature high-speed electric turbine jets in his uniform and even his boots. This addition completed the red and white Falcon costume, which would be used for most of Sam's Falcon appearances going forward, with minor design tweaks, though I'll always have a soft spot for the unnecessary 70s plunging V-neck version. In 1975, writer Steve Englehart retconned aspects of the Falcon's past. Originally depicted as a former social worker motivated by the desire to better the lives of inner-city youth, the Falcon was revealed as a mob-connected thug codenamed Snap, whose memories were altered by the reality-warping Cosmic Cube, masterminded by the Red Skull, an iconic recurring Captain America villain. For a number of reasons, this Sam as a criminal retcon was reinforcing negative racial connotations and stereotypes. This Snap persona was retconned in the 2014 all-new Captain America comic to have been entirely a construct of the Red Skull to discredit Wilson via racism, and Sam Wilson had never been a criminal at all. The Falcon, as a symbol of freedom and justice in Harlem, navigating periods of strained racial relations in the city, proves to be the more enduring legacy for Sam Wilson. Sam's parents were Paul Wilson, a prominent minister, and Darlene Wilson. Wilson had a happy childhood and a natural affinity for birds, training pigeons, and had the largest pigeon crew in Harlem. Encounters with racism in his teens left Sam jaded. When he is 16, Wilson refuses to join the church, believing his deeply religious parents to be ignorant for their faith. To his surprise, rather than put up a fight, his parents provide Sam with books on different religions and comparative theology. Sam's father is killed trying to break up a neighborhood fight, and 2 years later his mother is shot and killed by a mugger 1 block from their apartment. The tragic deaths of his parents does not stop Sam from being a respected community volunteer and social worker, as well as aiding raising his brother and sister. In 1978, the Falcon briefly joined the superhero team The Defenders for issues 62 through 64, and was a member of the Avengers from 1979 for issues 1983 through 194, and then was part of the 1998 The Avengers Volume 3, in which contact with the Cosmic Cube mentally bonded Sam with Red Wing, and the 2012 Marvel Now Avengers team. The Falcon costume has had multiple updates over the years from both Stark employees and Wakandan tech improvements, eventually replacing Falcon's wings with hard light constructs and incorporating self-repairing vibranium microweaves into his main costume to make Sam resistant to small arms weapons fire. The wings have been used to deflect projectiles, and feathers have been flung as slicing projectiles similar to the mutant Archangel's wings. On July 16th, 2014, Marvel Comics announced that Sam Wilson would relinquish the mantle of Falcon and would become the new Captain America, succeeding Steve Rogers in the role. This was a move that created a lot of discourse around the character of Sam Wilson. Some felt Sam's legacy as Falcon was a strong enough identity of its own. He didn't need Steve's hand-me-downs. Some people's reasoning for Sam not being Cap was tinged or other times overtly racist, and some people loved the prospect of Sam being trusted by his friend with one of the biggest responsibilities a superhero can have, embodying all that Captain America stands for, an honor, but certainly a complicated one given America's treatment of black people both in the past and the present. Sam's first outing as Captain America, as written by Rick Remender in All New Captain America, saw Sam taking on Hydra with assistance from Misty Knight. It's bizarre how widely this first miniseries veered from the subject of race, identity, and any politics stronger than super Nazis are bad, given how much their front-loaded context for both this Nick Spencer comic run and the Sam Wilson content in the MCU as portrayed by Anthony Mackie. The strategy was probably to wow the many naysayers with action before making readers face the topic of social justice through the lens of being black in modern America. Sam Wilson in the comics is trained in combat and martial arts by Steve Rogers, whereas in the MCU, Sam is trained in combat through the United States Air Force. Since that all-new Captain America run, Sam Wilson has alternated between the Captain America and Falcon identities, often coexisting as Captain America alongside Steve Rogers in the same role, similar to during this Nick Spencer era. One of these returns to the Falcon mantle was covered in the April 2021 Edo Comic Cast, which looked at the 2020 Falcon and Winter Soldier miniseries. As of 2014, Sam is wearing the Captain America suit again in a 5-issue Sam Wilson Captain America miniseries by Greg Pak and Eva Narcisse, which also features Red Hulk and Isaiah Bradley, an early test product of the United States Super Soldier program, retconned into the Captain America mythology during the 2006 Truth Red, White, and Black comic mini-series written by Robert Morales and Carl Baker, which explored the inherent politics of wrapping a black man in red, white, and blue, and the larger metaphor of America itself. Robert Morales originally laughed at the idea of writing an African-American Captain America, but then he wrote a story proposal so staggeringly depressive he was certain Marvel would turn it down, except they didn't. This Isaiah Bradley story set a precedent for how Sam Wilson's tenure as Captain America would be tackled both in comics and on screen. Isaiah Bradley has been portrayed in the MCU by Carl Lumley, known for his roles as the voice of Martian Manhunter in the Bruce Timm Justice League cartoons, as well as characters in the live-action Supergirl, Mantis, and Alias TV shows. Sam Wilson has also appeared in an array of animated projects, typically as the Falcon, in projects released up till 2020, most notably by The Expanse's, voiced by The Expanse's Martin Roach in Avengers United They Stand, the late Lance Reddick of Destiny, Quantum Break, and Horizon video game fame in The Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and in The Superhero Squad show it was voiced by Alimi Ballard, most famously known as FBI agent David Sinclair in the 2005 CBS police procedural series Numbers, as well as the Quizmaster from the 90s Sabrina the Teenage Witch TV show. In animated projects released after 2020 like Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur and Lego movies, Sam Wilson has primarily appeared as Captain America. In my opinion, the Sam Wilson comics, where he takes on the mantle of Captain America, are the most interesting and nuanced exploration of the Captain America mantle in the last 30 years of comic books.